Recreational.
We switched
Okay.
out of courtesy for all of them.
Oh, that's fine.
Thanks.
Joanne Norwood, our concern, she's gonna call in.
All right. See people here.
It's the second week in a row.
Second week in a row.
It's a popular place to be on a Tuesday night.
Yeah. This is the second week in a row. We have had more than about 15 people, so. it's
I appreciate
something.
the support.
We do. We're just waiting for Mike and then we'll get going. Oh,
And Peter.
Peter.
You always forget.
Because you weren't there.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that guilt.
Weren't there?
I do it every time. I never figure out which way it opens.
800 to come over.
Yes, 100%. That is me.
We're underprepared.
I feel like somebody should tell a joke.
Or something.
Go ahead. What do you got?
No, I'm not volunteering for
That's
that.
all
No,
you
thank you. My
get.
delivery is terrible.
That's Brian's.
Brian's got some good
job.
ones.
Appropriate for public.
That we're recording too. I have one that one of my patients told me. Did you hear? No, well, I did, and we laughed about it. Did you know that the guy who invented the hokey pokey died recently, but it took them 3 days to bury him because they had to put their left foot in, put the right. That's all I got.
You got a fan back there, Marianne. I heard some good laugh back there.
Chuckle. Okay, corny. You guys missed a really good joke. All right, thank you again for being so patient. Next, it brings us to the approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion for the approval?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Next is the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any communication?
Mr. Johnson and I were invited to Ready Academy, and we were there this morning. And I will talk about that in informational items, but
Excellent.
thank you for the invitation.
Beautiful. Anybody else? All right, this takes us to our first open session. You have to read this. As per board policy 1512, we hold 2 open sessions at each meeting. The first session is limited to comments on agenda items for tonight's meetings. The board welcomes attendance and participation by district residents, people having business within the boundaries of the school district, and people who do business with the Board of Education. Speakers must be at least 16 years of age and will be limited to 3 minutes. Amy's our timekeeper. Please preface your comments with your name, address, group affiliation if appropriate. Non-district residents must include the name of their business or how they do business with the Board of Education. All speakers in this open session must state which agenda item they are speaking on. If you're not sure, ask. Any takers?
Thanks, man. Good evening. My name is Paul Simondera. I am a social studies and technology coach within the district. And just want to address the board if that's okay. Thank you.
Sherry, you need name or address?
I got it.
Thank you, Sherry. First, my name is Paul Simondera. For those of you who don't know me, thank you. I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Shay. I've stood before this board many times over the past 25 years and have never once taken it for granted, the opportunity that you've afforded teachers to communicate with you. Time and again, the Board of Education has shown teachers that they are appreciated, valued, trusted, and respected members of the Sweet Home community. Furthermore, your actions have made us feel as that our experiences in the classroom and in the hallways and on our playing fields matter to you. The past several years, the Sweet Home Way has taken on a life of its own through our students and faculty alike. As representative of the Teachers Association, I want to extend a warm, heartfelt thank you for the note that the board sent last week. Your words resonated with our staff, and it was nice to feel seen and heard. Members of our association wanted to attend tonight's meeting to show you, the board, in person, that you know we do appreciate you as well. We stand here tonight to express our shared commitment to the Sweet Home Way. We stand firm that we owe the Sweet Home families the very best. It is our desire to be in concert with the school community's goals. Our values have always included safe learning environments, collaboration, transparency, shared decision-making, timely communication, professional trust, and mutual respect. Last week, Ms. McDonald mentioned at the board meeting revisiting a Meet the Board night to provide dialogue between stakeholder groups. As we continue to navigate this world pandemic, we welcome this notion because we need to, now more than ever, talk with each other so that we're able to meet the needs of our students and staff members. Simply put, like you, Shea collectively wants our buildings to be safe and welcoming where high expectations are set and met by all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Going once, going twice? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Next is unfinished business, which we have none, and this takes us to the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Jason. Tonight we have two presentations for the board. First, our high school administration team is here to talk about student spaces and staff spaces at the high school. And so I'm going to pull their presentation up for you.
And thank you, Young and Wright, for switching our schedule there and so that the teachers can get through this too.
And I always get it, Zoom Room or Apple TV.
Apple TV.
Thank you.
Make sure you're on the Virgil's network.
Yep. Okay.
So I just want to thank the board for the opportunity to speak to you tonight in regards to the topic of student staff spaces. I was kind of that kid that colored outside the lines in school, go off script a little bit on the presentation. And I just want to first, I've got almost 100 staff, high school, we're here tonight, so I wanted to. This doesn't surprise me because this is I teach you after Sweet Home High School. They give us something to unify and stand behind it, dedicated professionals. So definitely, what happened here tonight. But with that being said, I just want to start. I sat here for the last 3 hours with some members of people, listening to a lot of presentations. I'm sitting here, I'm listening, I'm looking at that mission over here. Sweet Home, every student, one community. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, what does that truly mean? I can just envision people sitting around the table, right, and they're creating this mission statement. And what they're doing is, in my mind, look at it, they're throwing the ball and you're running after it at some point to try to catch it or get it. Right? And try to catch your own pass, right? Something like that. That's what that is. You're casting a vision, right? And I look at that and I say, what are we doing, as administration, as a board, to try to make that vision come to fruition? What are the things that we're doing to do that? And made me think to myself, that's why we're here tonight. And I thought of 3 words when I read that. I thought of inclusive, I can't say it. Inclusive, collaboration, preparation, right? Those 3 words. Inclusive, collaboration, preparation. What's my point? that that's what we're striving for. As I sat here today with the members of our DEI committee, I thought to myself, this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to create conditions for our students to be successful. And when you hired me as your leader of your school, you hired a forward thinker. You hired someone that's going to look not at the present circumstances, ahead to what is going to be. So I want you guys to understand that this is by no means taking away from the teachers. Talk about something. But what it's really doing is adding value. Seeing what the need is, what the need is going to be. We've all experienced a lot of challenging situations over the last couple of years, right? A lot of change. Took us out of our comfort zone. So I understand when there's change that is being proposed, there's resistance to that change. But I think one thing that I learned through the pandemic is that you have to be willing to change. Not you're going to be left behind. You're going to play catch up. My point in saying this is that this is not just an isolated situation about what Antonio Perry wants. This is looking at the whole situation saying, this is what is to come, and to be able to meet the needs of our students, this is what we're going to have to do. Regardless of how comfortable we are or not. I want to speak that to you. I was in there, I'm sorry, I'll be honest, I was writing notes as I'm listening to something. I'm just thinking to myself as I'm in there, this is not about a physical space. This is about so much more. This is about our students. And I know, without a doubt, again, as I speak, I never want to speak against our professionals, because when that crowd I'm looking at right now, I respect you guys. But it's not about physical space. It's not about us against you. Anything, my hope out of this situation is that this brings us closer together, not tear us further apart. Because our students need us right now. And the one thing I want to say is that as we're looking at the situation, what it is, it's not about space. This is about what we're seeing as needs now and in the future. The goal, okay, for this presentation, for the future committee we're going to create, is to create conditions to meet the needs of all of our students. I say all because every student, one community, and we're going to do what we need to do to help them be prepared and ready for the future. So I just want to put that out there for you. And I wrote a bunch of stuff down. I won't bore you with everything that I said. I think the main thing from this is I want you to understand the heart behind this. Realize that we would not be representing on something if we didn't truly believe there was a need for this.
Great.
Yep.
I got it.
Mike's your driver.
So going forward with the rest of this presentation, starting with a couple of the goals. First goal, work with the committee, like Mr. Perry said, to create larger spaces for students and staff that encourage increased collaboration. The second goal, create the conditions for educational pathways to better prepare students for the future that allows for a more personalized experience. And goal three, be forward thinking and preparing for the 21st century and learning to ensure all students are ready for the future.
So, to add to that, listen to the candidates today talk about the 21st century. We talked about, a bunch of different things. A learning community, collaboration. And as I heard them speak, more and more, it's really confirmed for me the importance and the reason why we should be looking to change the conditions at the high school when it comes to
Go ahead.
Yep.
So this is just, I know there's many people in the room that are familiar with the building, but some not so much. So this is just a school map of the high school building. There are 5 spaces that we would like to look at with the committee with the thought of potentially repurposing them for, increased use for our students. And we're going to start with we're going to go clockwise with the room 400 A and B, which is circled in green, kind of toward the center. So Mr. Janester, you can go to the next slide. So this is room 400A-B. It's kind of right in the center of the school. It currently houses our alternative program, high school students. You'll see there are 2 doors on each side, A and B. The pictures on the right are a picture of a single classroom, but it's identical on the opposite side. So these right now are 2 wonderful spaces. They do currently house our alternative program, which has grown significantly. and is one of the spaces we'd want to look at as
So
potentially
is this our
reusing.
610, our room six, the old Mrs. Lewandowski kids?
Yes.
So our old 610,
This
okay.
is the-
Right,
the
right.
ALT program, and we have about 44 students at this time who are sharing the space. Again, we're understanding that it has grown, almost doubled, and it will probably continue to grow. So with that, we're trying to, again, make sure that we create the conditions to be able to handle the increase in students.
You can go ahead, Mr. Genestri. So again, we're going clockwise around the map. So we're looking at room 308, which is highlighted in blue. These are current teacher offices along the 300 hallway. So if you go to the next slide, Mr. Genestri. So looking down this hallway, if you look on the left side, you're looking down in the back of the AAC. I'll show you a picture of the AC next. And then below that picture is just looking the same, the opposite direction behind the AAC. On the other side of that yellow hallway are the offices themselves. Again, you can see there's quite a long space. So again, another space that we'd want to look at to potentially repurpose with the committee.
This is one of the spaces that potentially will house kids.
Again,
Potentially.
we want that to be something discussed with the committee, but I think personally, this would not be a space for students because it doesn't have access to windows. But there are other options that it could be used for.
We're looking at places to be able to, increase educational support for all of our students, looking at ways to increase the safety and security in the building by finding other areas to be able to house our SROs, as well as our monitors.
Okay.
So multi-purposes, but again, we don't want to get too much into the exact thing we're looking to do. This is going to be in phases. This won't be overnight. We're looking at phase 1 at this point. That is, to abate and repurpose. And then at that point, when we have the committee, stakeholders, and the impact on our staff and even our students, we'll then begin to talk about more of the details and specifics.
Just want to make sure that that was clear, that it's not necessarily a no window spaces
Right.
It is not.
specific to, earmarked to children, that's all.
Yes, that's a good point thinking is that these are going to be spaces for students and staff.
We can go to the next slide.
Yep.
Just to get an idea of, that space itself. To the left of that picture, this is the AAC. This was a new space this year that has been a successful repurpose. Many students attend the AAC throughout the day. We have 4 full-time AAC teachers. I know we've spoken about the AAC before. And it's just, it's been a positive new space this year.
I think this is a great example, what you can do with forward thinking, vision, all the people who have success. This was, what I understood, was more of like it was full of books and bookshelves, bookcases at one point. And in there, we said, we need a place for our students to be able to see mediation, academic enhancement. So we ended up hiring our AAC teachers. We created the conditions for this room, we cleared it out. It's very simple, we cleared it out. We said, okay, what can we do in this room to make sure we're best supporting our students? The 4 teachers came together, they came up with a plan, they designed the room, they designed the program, and I would have to say that it's been very successful. But again, it just shows what happens when you create the conditions and let your great educators with so many great skills and talents lead the way.
So it's 3 more spaces to go. We're looking at room 404. This is pretty much right where we were just talking about, also connected to the AAC. There's a small hallway, but this is the purple highlighted area, again, right in the center of the building. And then if you go again, Mr. Genestri, just that space itself. The access into this area is through the art hallway, which you see in the top left. There's also a separate door when you go through those double doors, which accesses a smaller room. There are offices, teacher offices currently in there. And again, just another space to possibly look at. So we're going down to a different part of the building now. This is on the first floor, the 600 level. Room 601 is in the orange. Go ahead. So this space, kind of almost a mini lecture hall, almost mini auditorium. Earlier in the year was used mostly for, well, it was used solely for study halls up until about a month and a half ago, due to the capital project taking place in the boys' PE locker room. Our male PE teachers have graciously moved their office space into this area for the remainder of the year. But again, this is a very large space, a space that could absolutely find a new purpose for next year.
And I have to add as well that, next year, we know we're going to a big capital project. So we are losing the auditorium. This space will become one of our areas for our seniors, kind of senior lounge. So space is being, taken away and utilized because of the capital project for next year. That will be the other reason why it's going to be important to find other spaces in the building for us.
And then the last time, back to the map, again, this is the same area of the school, probably the largest space that we'll talk about tonight, highlighted in yellow, room 607 and 609. They're not connected. We'll see both pictures, but 607 is currently tech computer lab, and 609 are the larger of the teacher office area. So just looking at the room 609, there are two entrances to this area. If you go below, the pictures below of each entrance, that's looking through those doorways into those office areas, which is quite a large space. There are also, just to kind of frame where you are in the building, there are separate entrances to this area that don't access directly into it, but access that part of the building, which also could have buses enter that area too. And then the last is just room 607. This is not connected, it's directly across the hallway in that of 609. And on the right side is inside that room, which is continue to be a laboratory computer space, a tech space, which is what's currently used right now.
As you mentioned, that space is, adjacent to the technology department. Working with them as well. Or we went on a trip to Springfield High School, looked at some of the innovative things they're doing in their tech department and the way of adding computer science and STEM. And at some point, we'll be looking to do something like that for our students. We'll get more into the fact that we're looking to create pathways for our students, more opportunities, so we can ensure that educational equity for all students in our high school.
Is the last slide?
That's the last slide.
Last slide?
Yep, that's
Okay.
the last slide.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I
again,
don't know if anybody has questions, but.
so we wanted to just give you an idea, not spend too much time, but just kind of show you what we're looking to do, and understand that the guiding principle behind anything we're doing is to what's best for everyone in the high school, students and staff. These are some of the ideas, again, the conditions we're looking to create and utilize, the talents of our teachers and our students to be able to take this space and turn it into something that is beneficial for everyone.
Are there other open areas in the high school that could be repurposed to house the teacher office spaces?
Yes. So we're looking at a couple different spaces in the high school to be able to ensure that you'd have a collaborative space for teachers to go. I know, I've been informally kind of surveying teachers, talking to people. Some of the percentage would be where they house the printers, where would they be able to make parent phone calls. So we took all those things in consideration, talked to the librarian, possible space in that area. Also, looking at those areas, we're talking about repurposing, sectioning some of those areas off as well for teachers. So really, it's going to be a higher collaborative environment than now in some ways. I think about it and I say, okay, these spaces, I would assume, and I wasn't here, but some of them were created 15 sure that at that time, it was done in a way that they could collaborate. But collaboration in 2005, 2000 is different than 2022. Right? So we're looking at changing with the times and finding the best way to be able to create an environment where we're able to create collaboration for teachers, not looking to take that away. We all understand the value in that, And we know that, you know, our departments do that well, working with one another. We want to just add to what they're already doing. But at the same time, being able to give students the opportunity to collaborate and, you know, provide opportunity for them as well.
And I only have one more question, and then I promise you, the rest of you can talk.
Go ahead.
What is the timeline for getting your committee together? And who do you anticipate having on it? Is it going to be like all stakeholders within the building?
It will be all stakeholders in the building. We've already begun to get the committee together.
So you
We'll reach out to
probably
people.
do some work over the summer? Is that the
We'll
plan?
absolutely do a lot of work over the summer. The work is already begun.
I meant in communication with,
And yeah, communication, and again, as I mentioned before, this is gonna be in phases, it won't be overnight. It's gonna take time, but again, there are this opportunity right now with the abatement to begin to work with the committee to see how they feel, you know, best way to utilize the spaces.
thank you.
How do you make sure, I mean, I'm looking out into the audience and seeing all these people. How do you make sure they're going to have a say in some of this? Because, I mean, a lot of them have been in this building for probably a long time. So I want them to, I mean, they know the building. I want them to have a say in what proceeds forward.
I agree with you. That's why, you know, said all the time, I respect. We're gonna make sure that we have their voices are heard, like, you know, choosing on each department to be a part.
I just don't want to see them get lost in the shuffle. I value their opinion. I totally understand why this is needed now, and I get it. It's just I don't want them lost in the shuffle as we do this. I mean, because we've always said communication's important. Their input's important, and I think we need it.
Completely agree. Without their input, it won't be successful.
Is the
But
definition
again,
of
I
one
think
community.
as much as we don't want them lost. in the
Absolutely,
shuffle,
that is one community.
that's what I was gonna say, it's one community. It's every student and every teacher, right? It's all of us coming together to do what's best. But end of the day, we are looking at providing opportunities for our students. I think we're on the same page when it comes.
It's a good page to be on.
Yeah, it's a great.
In terms of
Can we
the
have a-
committee, have you given, you know, the structure and the thought, I mean, you've said stakeholders, so there's one from each department, meaning like history, English, is this what we're
So it's
talking
going to
about?
be-
Phys ed?
Thought about that, talked about that, you know, and we'll have input into that as well, but would it be more of departments that would be directly affected by this? Your special ed, technology, you know, those departments, but by no means, if you want to exclude anyone, it could be everyone, person representing every department as well. I want to make sure that we get everyone's voice and we're able to hear from everyone as to what they think is best for our students.
Anybody else have a question? Okay.
I just want to say congratulations. I think I'm proud of you. By no means I want this to ever take away from great work you've done, how deserving you are of this. She has been such an asset to the team. Congratulations. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
let's,
vote?
why don't we, yeah, let's do that after.
So our next presentation, we have Young and Wright here with us tonight to hand over the building condition survey. So they've spent a lot of time and effort with our buildings, and I think even Mrs. Jason went on a
I was
tour.
on the roof.
on
This is
the roof.
riveting stuff. I've been on the roof, but you're all welcome to stay. If you want to transition, that's fine too, but let's hear about our buildings.
Okay.
This is what you care about.
Is it all in there or?
It's,
It's in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Got it?
Like
Okay.
Craig,
it's
what's
coming.
in
There it is. All
There.
right. A moment of truth, right? Now that was supposed to work better. That's
You don't need the stick.
slideshow. There we go.
All right.
There you are.
Okay, so as Mr. Janestri said, we're here tonight to present the building condition survey. If you go to our next slide there, we'll do the introductions. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sean Wright, and partner in charge at Young and Wright Architectural for Sweet Home Schools. Jeff Hazel has been our project manager here, and he'll get into some of the details of some of the projects that are ongoing and how we put them together. And Alyssa Catlin, who is our building condition survey expert, unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. She was feeling a little under the weather and decided it was better to stay home. So I'm going to do my best to not screw this up for her because she does an amazing job at it. And I know you're recording this, so she may see it. So if you go to the next slide here. So basically what we're dealing with here is two pieces. New York State has implemented a process where every 5 years they want every school district to perform a building condition survey. And basically back in 2020, they were on a 5-year pace, and we've done the work here 2015 and in 2020 when we would have done it again. They changed the rules a little bit, and they spread out the schools so that not every school district in New York was required to submit it in the same year. So for Sweet Home Schools, 2022 is the calendar year for this requirement, which is why we're performing it now. I wanted to make sure everyone kind of understood that. And our next slide, I'm going to introduce the blue team, okay? And as Mary Ann said, she got to meet a lot of members of the blue team. And she joined me on one of the days where we were out here in the field. And as you can see, we put all of our people in the same color shirts, so that when everybody in the school is asking questions about who all these people are who are scaling our building and climbing around on our roofs and things like that, that we were able to give them an answer, that if you see a blue shirt, that's what they're doing there. But on the next slide, it talks a little bit more about them. Each one of these folks is an expert in their field. So typically on any given day during the building condition survey, we're coming out here to your buildings with anywhere from 9 to 12 people. And each of them, as you can kind of see in this example here, have a different role. Some of the people are out here to evaluate things on your site. Some of them are here to evaluate the building shell or mechanical systems, electrical, and they all have their areas of expertise. They've been doing this for school districts now for quite some time, and it creates a very, very consistent report because they're the same people evaluating it from those systems from building to building to building on your behalf in order to put this together. And on the next slide, you'll see one of the more important features of this. Okay, maybe we won't see that part, but on the right-hand side there in that big white space on the one that I have, and I've seen this happen with PowerPoints.
Okay, sorry.
There we go.
There it
Okay,
is.
I like
Sorry.
that one better. New York State is asking, they have 86 categories that they ask us to evaluate in each one of your buildings. And what we've learned over the years is that there are a lot of other things that go into a building that are important to you as a school district that aren't required to be evaluated by the state and what they're looking for. We've added over 40 categories to this list, and this list is just an example of some of those items that we've added personally to our evaluations. We have some unusual requests. You know, we've had school districts that have said, we have a rock wall, and can you add that to your list and make sure that it's safe for our students and that we're evaluating it for any costs or upgrades that we might have to look at. I know, Jeff, you said you had an example of something that was specific to Sweet Home?
Yes, a specific example here, as part of the capital improvement project, we're renovating the auditorium at the high school. So as part of that, you have stage rigging, which is a pretty specialized item that, not a lot of schools will be handling in capital projects. So we had our team come out and make sure we evaluated that. We work with a theatrical consultant, we work with a structural engineer. So there are just different parts of that whole system that really need to all work together.
And so because of this, we keep adding categories to make sure that you guys are getting the best report, the best information, because aside from submitting it to the state education department for their use, we want to make it a useful piece for you guys. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we move on. So the process starts with documenting your existing conditions. And Jeff's going to talk a little bit how that process works.
So as Sean mentioned, we have our whole blue shirt team that comes out to these buildings and really thoroughly goes through every building. But a critical part of this is to really involve the people who know these buildings better than anyone. The maintenance staff, our buildings and grounds supervisor, and, you know, we actually go to every building and we meet with these people directly. They can tell us things that might not be readily apparent to us when we send our team out. If we go out in the middle of summer and evaluate these schools, you know, we're not going to know that, okay, these classrooms are always cold. You know, the custodians are the ones that are receiving these complaints and they can, you know, bring it up the chain. So we can make sure that those items get addressed in our building condition surveys. You know, another item that might not be apparent, if you have, you know, dry weather like we have right now, you might not notice that a roof leaks constantly when it rains. So that those are just certain items that can be brought to our attention, and we make sure we get those addressed as part of those long range or long-term plans.
So these are steps that take place before our actual building conditions or the portion that you know, Mary Ann was able to witness. One of the other things that we do is we collect all of your existing drawings. And in your case, I believe we collected them during the last building condition survey. We scanned them all. We put them into a format that is very easy to use. So that now you don't have to have a room like the one on the left there where you have to go and find your drawings. I've told Steve before, I've used an example of him a number of times where he was able to use this iPad to locate a valve to shut off a water line rather quickly because of this. And I'm gonna dare to demonstrate this as we move through the next couple of slides here. So we're able to provide you with a digital library of all of your drawings, and the way that it looks when we get to the next one there.
For some reason it's not. Is that it, Sean? It's moving on my computer and now it's not moving on the screen, so I don't know what happened here. That's probably back.
Okay, well, yeah, you went a couple ahead. Nope, now
Am I going forward or
now
back?
you're going forward, yeah. Let's go back about 5. There we go, right there is good.
Okay,
There you go.
there we go.
So actually, and this is showing the version that's on the iPad, which we turned over to Steve at a meeting about a week ago. But this is also available on your server. I believe you guys have a copy of it that is available. So you would go to the folder for existing drawings, and if you clicked on that one, then you would see each of your buildings. And in this case, we're going to use an example at the junior senior high school. And if you click into that, you could then go into a whole series of the different sets of drawings that are available to us in there. We've chosen one of the original ones, the architectural drawings, because those are more fun to look at than the mechanical, electrical anyway. But you can see what it brings you up to the whole set of drawings that then you can use to help solve a problem. I think if you go to the next slide, you'll see how very easy it is to highlight, circle. It's a PDF type of format. And then you can actually email the drawing off to somebody that might be able to help you solve the problem that you're looking to solve, which is a lot easier than the old fashioned way of doing this, which would have been to go find the plans if you had a room that they were located in and then, photocopying and all that other fun stuff. So it's a very useful tool. It's more of I would say, a benefit to us having to collect all your drawings than a part of the building condition survey, but we found that many people find it to be very useful. So if you go into the next one, we talk about meaningful data. The state education department requires us to put one entry in there for windows. They want us to just tell them, how are our windows? Okay. Well, as you can see from this example here in this building has a number of different eras involved in the windows. So you may have windows that date all the way back to the 1940s. And then again, you may have windows that were put in the 2000s. And so it's very difficult to have useful information for you guys to determine what windows in your building need to be replaced by that type of report, which is why we actually go through and we verify these windows in every era of every portion of your buildings when we put this information together. And we're going to give you a little bit of an example here in the next couple of slides here. All of this information is very easy to sort. It's very easy to search. And we've shown the group how to use it. So if anyone has questions on certain parts of your building, at any time they can help you with that. So the next couple of slides here are actually your windows. And I know it's probably a little difficult to see at this scale and size, but if you look at the diagram of your building in the bottom right, you'll see some red lines around the outside there. Those are the areas of the windows that we were analyzing. They're of a certain area. That yellow bar on the left-hand side, which is where we do our evaluation, is all the questions on the left-hand side. But the nice easy part is that the yellow bar tells you it's an unsatisfactory item, okay? So in this case, we evaluated that these windows have a few years left in their remaining useful life, okay? We use a green, yellow, and red system for evaluating all those. It makes it real easy as you flip through these entries to see the condition of these. If you go into the next one, you're going to see the 1998 aluminum windows that are in this building here. And you can clearly see again on the floor plan where those windows are located. These ones are coming up as satisfactory and have, we're looking at about, I think it says a five plus years of useful life remaining for them. If you go to the next slide, we're looking at our windows from the year 2000, and these are also in satisfactory condition. We've given these a 7 to 10 year range for their useful life. And if you go on to one more, you're going to see the windows that were installed in 2014, and those should last you well into the future. So you can see why this information can be a lot more valuable to you as a school district as you're creating capital plans or creating the long-term plan that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Because it's not just one condition for the whole building. You can see where you've got some bad areas and you've got some areas that are in great shape right now. These next couple, again, are just examples of searches. This one got my attention because these were roofs that were completed in 2014, and I looked at it and said, I remember us putting those roofs on there, and I can't believe it was already 2000. It's already been that many years since they've been up there, but they are still in great condition. You'll see some white areas on the roof plan there that if you go to the next slide are now red areas. Those areas we didn't replace at the time because they were still within warranty. They're out of warranty now, and they're in an unsatisfactory state that would put them as something that you may want to consider replacing in some of your upcoming projects.
John, are they out of warranty because of the age, right? They aged out of warranty? Okay.
Yeah. Typically, roofs of that era had about a 15-year to 20-year warranty on them.
Okay.
Nowadays, we're able to get 20-year, 30-year, and even 35-year warranties on some of the roofing materials. So it has improved over the years.
Thank you.
I noticed in one of your slides that there were windows that looked like from 1928.
Yeah.
Is it reasonable to expect our windows to last 95 years?
It's a great question, and Steve could probably attest to this. Ironically, we still find some of these single pane windows floating around. They're usually somewhere on the back of a building, and they're the windows to the boiler room or the windows to a maintenance room or something along those lines. But ironically, they're not meant to last that long, but we do find them occasionally that still in buildings that have great windows otherwise.
Back then they built things to last.
Yeah, that's for sure. So the next couple just are, again, these are just examples. This is the whole package was turned over to the district. And in each one of these things, you see the evaluation on the left, which gets into, you were evaluating the quantities, where it's located, a little bit of information about it. At the bottom portion of that, you're seeing a recommended replacement scope. So if we are recommending that the system needs to be replaced, we've identified how we're putting it in there and what we're expecting to be done. And then I would say, typically the most current cost available for replacing that so that you can see what it would cost. Now, obviously these days that changes on a daily basis, but it does give you, it's a great planning tool. I tell a lot of people that, people have great ideas on what they want to do, it's when the number pops up that you decide just how important is it to do it right now, right? We all have that problems with our own homes too.
Sean, I see a note on there that says recommended review again in 7 years. Are we on a different cycle or is it still a 5-year cycle that was just shifted?
It's still a 5-year cycle, and although we will evaluate it every 5 years because that's what the state wants us to do, it happens to be a system that we feel is probably going to be in good condition beyond that 5 years anyway. So you would hope to see it, come up after 5 years as something that would maybe go on there for another 3 to 5 years, even though it's 7 now.
Okay, thanks.
On these actual slides, there are tabs up at the top that you really can't see in this presentation. If the system existed on multiple floors, there would be multiple floor plans there that show you where those systems are. If the systems are in good condition, like for instance, the track here that we're looking at, they're going to show up in blue instead of red. And there's a photos tab at the top because although we take the 2 best photos and put them on this page for everyone's use, we take as many photos as we possibly can. So there's typically a page that is filled with photos, which is great when you're looking at certain systems like your heaters and boilers, because we like to get pictures of all of the nameplates and serial numbers, model numbers, things like that for you. So you have all of that information at your fingertips when you're going through these things. So going on from, that's how we collected the data, and that's the actual data that we turned over to the district. We have since then, now it's how do we use our data? Well, anytime, anywhere is the way we talk about it, okay? As the board comes up with, questions about things that may be going on in the district, it's probably very likely if you're looking for information on systems here, that you're going to be able to find something that can very easily be shared with the group through this system as far as photos and plans and where things exist. The other part is that for you guys, this has been turned over already to the state education department. So you've met the deadlines and the requirements that they've satisfied. But next, in the next slide, we're going to go into the actual long-term planning process. Okay. When we performed your last building condition survey, it was kind of an unusual one because you guys were right smack dab in the middle of your last capital project, which was a large project. And so it didn't make sense for us to collect all that data and then knowing that most of those items were being replaced. So some of the long-term planning process got a little muddy in that whole process there. We're back at a point now where we've collected good data. We have been able to identify some of the items that are in the current or the upcoming portion of the current capital project so that we can earmark those so that those aren't things you need to do. But you have a pretty good list now to start what we call the long-term planning process. And the key to the long-term planning process is prioritizing. So it really only has only one part of it is the building condition survey. Okay, so that is the raw data on your existing buildings and your existing elements. Okay, so what we like to do from there is take that, sorry, that's okay. We like to take that information and we like to get together with the committee that we've been working for with our facility, or not facilities group so far much, but the group of people we've been working with on our capital projects, and establish other things that are going on in the district, other priorities that you may have. Maybe new programs, some of the ideas that you looked at here tonight that may be things that you might come back in and say, well, in order to do that, we might need some walls, we might need some doors and windows, things like that. And we combine all these items and we put the existing conditions, issues that you have with all of your new ideas. And we try to blend those into one list. And then we start to make that shuffling on the left-hand side there happen so that you come up with a list that has your highest priorities in mind. And we like to take this list and turn it into at least a 10-year plan. It's always great to plan out your next capital project, but going beyond that establishes some guidelines for your building. I always call it, it's a long-term honey-do list. So if you go to the next slide, you're going to see how this starts to lay out graphically. We take the information, we take the 10-year period that we're working with, and we start to break it out into all of the various types of funding mechanisms that might be available to you to tackle all the amount of work that can be in this very large list. The first one is actually capital outlays, which we're working on with the district as of right now. And Jeff's going to talk a little bit about what we've been able to do with those.
So for the last couple of capital outlay projects, well, let me start off by saying a capital outlay project is a $100,000 project that the district will get reimbursed for the following year. So you can do $100,000 worth of work each year. So you can check off items. For example, right now we're working on a capital outlay project at the high school where we're replacing doors and hardware in certain areas. Currently, we're over in the athletic wing that will be replacing some doors over there. And we actually just approved or opened up bids for the next outlay project. And that will be more door replacements that we've identified with the district, working our way around the school. So we have a large list of doors at the high school. And so we'll probably be looking at a couple more years out of capital outlay projects. But a nice thing about these outlay projects is, it's a great way to get $1 million worth of scope completed within 10 years. And these are something that you're fitting in between, these larger capital improvement projects. So there's just constant work that's being done. Some districts will identify, we need to replace floor finishes in certain areas. And this is one way to do that. And because of the limited scope in the outlay projects, we build in what we call alternates so that, the bidding environment is really, it's all over the place right now. So by putting alternates in, if we are not able to accept those alternates because the bids came in too high, that's something that we can put into the next capital outlay project. So it's just, like I said, it's a great way to, just keep the work moving and replacing all these items that need to be done over time and just work those in between the larger capital projects.
If I could just kind of tag on with Scott, if you don't mind for a second. If you remember in the budget process, we talked about those capital outlay projects potentially getting increased to $250,000. It didn't make it through the state budget process. So we're at $100,000, at least for next year. It's also important to note that when we design these projects, that $100,000 worth of work needs to be done in one building. It can't be spread out over the course of, 2 or 3 buildings as far as planning projects go. So I don't know. I was hopeful. I thought it was a slam dunk that we were getting to 250, and then they pulled the plug on us.
Actually, the question I was going to ask is if you got to heard anything, because I know when we met with our legislators in the spring, they were all strongly in support of it. I know it went through them and they got vetoed by the governor. I was wondering if you heard any of the reason behind why it might have gotten vetoed, or is there a chance next year do we need to go at it from a different angle? Or
Yeah, I mean, it made it through both of the houses and ended up, we thought, as Don said, that it was a slam dunk. We're really not sure. We haven't been able to get a full explanation. We have a feeling a little stadium somewhere might have had something to do with the budget, but I can't say that for fact. So, but we're hoping to get some answers, and we'll.
if you do, I'd love to hear it, because when we go back to talk with our legislators again next spring, since they were in support of it once, I'd like to have them support it again. But if there's something we need to do around it.
It was a real bummer to hear that one the day after everything went
It
through.
was,
It was like, we
100%.
were
Yeah, I was
really
kind of
counting
surprised. I
on
thought
it.
that, like you said, it was a no-brainer. I thought,
Yep.
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think a lot of districts planned for that 250 and worked it in our budgets and, so, yeah.
So the next step to this process is other unique funding sources. So, the Smart Schools Bond Act was one of them that was around for a while. NYSERDA has had certain types of grants. I think we've even worked on a couple of types of grants here. Then you get into some of the more current ones, the ESSER funds and things like that are available to chip away at this list of items that you want to accomplish. And the last one is the one that's up at the top there, which is your major capital improvement projects. And obviously, these ones take a lot more work. So the idea there is that we're not only prioritizing the scope, but we'll work with you guys and your financial advisors to determine the best time for you to allocate certain funds or to go out to the voters for funding, understanding what you have in capital reserves to help offset the local share, and then also your maximum cost allowances. The state allows you to spend and get aid on so much money, but only every 5 years. It regenerates every 5 years. So work that we're doing, say, here at the high school in our current project, you wouldn't be able to get that full amount of aid back on this for another 5 years. So you use all of those things there to plan out the best times to do capital projects. And this is where that 10 years comes into play. We really look at this thing and say, you really want to be working with your financial advisors and the information you have to lay out all of these things. If you look at this thing, it's not just about a capital project. It's about taking the work and saying, well, there's about $100,000 worth of that type of work. Why don't we put that into a capital outlay? Why don't we get this stuff done through the grant programs that are available? And that saves us a little bit more room in our capital improvement budget to do some other things that we've been wanting to do. And that also helps you to create this nice list that we have that we've used to prioritize, helps you to look at things and say, here's a lot of nuts and bolts items that we just absolutely have to do or the building's going to fall apart. But here's some other things too that we've been wanting to do for years that are going to improve our programs for our students and for our staff and for our community. And that's what the whole process is about. It also gives you, I've had this come up at board meetings. You mentioned those windows from 1928. And people will come into meetings and say that, like, well, I was around the backside of the high school the other day and I saw these windows that look like they're from 1928. And you're usually able to find them somewhere in your long-term plan and say, we're aware of that. And we don't have the money in our current project, but we're planning that for our 2025 capital outlay. And it's amazing what a powerful tool it can be that really helps you to plan for your facility's future. So
I just, if I could, just real quick before we do some questions, just from the other two funding sources, the Smart Schools money is money that we've really utilized here in district to do things technology-wise, upgrade our technology backbone, those types of things. So we have that money pretty well earmarked as going forward. Unlike the capital outlay project that didn't get bumped to $250,000, what did come through is that beginning in 2027, all of our buses need to be electric buses. So NYSERDA, Steve's been great about getting information from NYSERDA. We strongly believe that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for grants to help us offset some of those costs. Just throwing it out there right now, a 65 passenger bus that's in the budget right now, that's going to be voted on next week, is about $120,000. A 65 passenger electric bus is about $350,000. So there's going to be some work that's going to definitely, and that's immaterial of the groundwork, the charging stations, everything that needs to be done in preparation for this. So NYSERDA will certainly be a strong funding option for us. And I'll just speak to the work that these guys do with the stuff that we get in planning for this current capital improvement project. The BCS of 2015 was critical to helping us kind of prioritize and set the scope of the capital improvement project. So much so, if you remember correctly, we initially came to you all with a capital improvement project north of $50 million. And we had to go back and we utilized these in our construction meetings. They've got a big, spreadsheet that they come in and they've got it like, this is where we are in terms of the remaining useful life of these products or areas in the building. 1 to 3 years, 5 years, greater than 10 years to help us set priority and to build a scope of the project. So while it's certainly not the only piece of the puzzle, you heard of a lot of things. One of the things that, that Antonio was talking about, those additional spaces. I see Mr. Ryan over here, the space crunch at Maplemere. I know that these guys looked at. Those are some things that we'll have to address. But from a capital improvement project, Sean's not, he says that we'll talk with our financial advisors. The idea is to keep that debt service level so that tax levy doesn't do this for our community. So the next opportunity for us to look at a capital improvement project would probably be a vote in 2025 at some point in time. I don't know, we'll have to talk about it. Either we tie it to the May vote or we've had an awful lot of success in the October realm, to be able to do something like that, work through the approval process at state ed and shovel in the ground late 26, early 27. So that's kind of where we're at. But this is a critical tool. I thank Sean and his team for what they do. And Steve certainly, Jeff wasn't wrong when Steve and his team walked these guys around every building and pointed out literally every nook and cranny that was of concern. So
I just want to thank your team, to reiterate what Don was saying, for the professionalism when you were here. There was no disruption to the day at all. Your team is just extremely professional and thorough, and talked to us a lot about what was going on that day, and just really appreciate that communication. So.
And that iPad that Steve gets, I don't know, Steve, if you want to talk to about it, but it's phenomenal. It was a big help to us. I just remember you had it out when we were having all the flooding problems in the high school. We walked through and, he just click of a button, he had drawings up, and we're talking about where sewer drains are and things along those lines. So it's critically important to us. And he gets it, Sean says it's on a server. It's on the iPad that we got a week ago, but it'll be up on the server, and all of his crew will have access to it to be able to kind of work through some of those issues.
That's something new that I'm going to be pushing. Along with Young and Right's help, they're going to come back and help us train all the maintenance guys how to use it. If I'm not around, they can get it and put it in their hands, because then train them. As it now, like looking out all the locker rooms and stuff. Around or under time. Over 10 kids. Pops up almost every single.
I have so many questions. And so I'm a civil engineer, so I'm going to take an appetite suppressant and try not to nerd out too much. But, so I love the idea of the iPad. Do we have a facilities engineering or maintenance management system that interfaces with? Because this is a five-year look, right?
Mhm.
So it's only as good as today. Tomorrow it'll start to outdate and it'll age, and 5 years from now it'll age. So do we have kind of an evolutionary facilities engineering, maintenance management system that keeps track of these items and maybe generates work orders, that type of thing?
We already have that.
You do? So does this interface with it at all?
Doesn't interact across its fingers, but a lot of the information they have, where all the serial numbers, model numbers, it is, we off of these forms and management systems. Our guys carry iPads in their hands now. It also our software orders.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Yeah.
When we gotta go maintenance and handler. We're 13s, of course.
We're 13s.
It all pops out, and we do have integration.
Right. Is there
We have to merge.
is there a push for that, especially like as as-builts are produced for the major capital? Now we can do 3D rendering or whatever it is, so that.
That is that's how it all happened.
Yep.
Through the building conditions. There are times, because it's a state-managed program, how we got these two systems to merge was building conditions. When these guys came in, helped us input all of that data. The only time we really need to change it now is when we put the killers in here at the high school. We need to update the system, and we need to update our building,
All right.
So not only do we have a work order system, we also have our.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Working on control.
Steve.
If I had it on my phone, I could.
And one last question.
Sure.
Are we, you talked about the zero emissions buses. Are we looking at any sort of public-private partnership for carbon neutral energy sources. We got I think I saw 400,000 square feet of roof or whatever it is. Are we looking at, I mean, the market's ripe for them right now.
So
Any-
what I'll say is just, we are not quite there yet because we're learning every day. I think we're going to another one later this week. But we have asked the architect team and campus construction with the new bus area over on the other side here. Now that before we do all the new parking lots, we are going to put conduit in place under the ground so that we can be ready for any sort of a charging station kind of going forward, rather than in 3 years rip up a relatively new parking lot to be able to do that. But your question, not out of the realm of possibility. We're just not there yet.
And this is just one of the incentives, or not incentives, but directives, I guess, that we've received from, the state about where they're envisioning schools going. There's a lot of other ones that have to do with electric heating and cooling only in buildings and things like that. So we're trying to work through the details and see, what the implementation plan can even look like, over time. So.
Thank you. I'm done.
What are the other things that we talked about?
Yep.
A lot of our building leaks aren't the roof. Parapet walls, areas.
Coping.
Where we have a lot of recent areas. A lot of leaks we have in the summer. Up there. How's all the air conditioning? Walls of the sun. Water. That's.
Thank you.
So our next steps are to keep going with this information and working with the financial advisors in the group here to identify some of the other items that may not be addressable in the building condition survey and keep building. So.
Anybody else have any questions?
All right, well, thank you for
Thanks, Sean.
having us tonight. And, Mary Ann, my roofing guy did leave us recently, so if you're looking for
Really
work.
interesting though. I think at once a board member should come with you each time because you really learn a lot going up there.
I agree. It's useful to see how it all comes
It all
together.
comes together.
Yeah.
They have you in a harness and everything?
No, they didn't have me in a harness. No,
We
they
took the
just had
safe
me-
route.
We kept you away from the edge. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
very
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve.
Sean. Thanks, Jeff.
So I know we're running on time, but I will, I've got just a couple updates and a couple of exciting announcements to make for the board tonight. First, she's in the audience tonight. I would like to introduce Fanoon Shaibi as our recommended candidate for the Director of Human Resources position here at Sweet Home. Fanoon comes to us from Clarence, where she is the Director of Accountability and Assessment. And she's also the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. She's got experience in K-12 curriculum, Erie One data coordination, but she's also certified in human resources. And she went through a very rigorous process to be with us here tonight and was the leading candidate every step of the way. Just her knowledge and experience of human resources, her ideas for retention, recruitment, of our employees and staff as we make transitions in the service area and 5 to 10 years down the road with teachers. I think her experience is going to be invaluable to us to make sure not only are we recruiting the right teachers and service area employees, but we're also retaining them and that they find Sweet Home to be the place they want to be. So it was with great pleasure that I introduced Fanoon to the board tonight and put her up for recommendation for your vote as the next Director of Human Resources. And I don't know if Joanne, if you want to make any comments, because obviously Fanoon and Joanne are going to be working very closely together. And I think Joanne ran a great process to find Fanoon.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Jestry. I'm just very excited to work with Ms. Shaibi, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to collaborate and partner together. There's a lot of work to be done going forward, and as Mike shared throughout the process, Fanoon just stood out to all of those who observed her through the process. And we welcome you this evening and look forward to our work together come July 1. So welcome. Thank you.
Yep. I would also like to say that we are extremely excited to announce Karen Delaplant as the next principal at Glendale Elementary School. You know, I think we all know Karen's background. She's currently the assistant principal in the high school. And I know, as some of you have mentioned to me, this is a big loss for the high school, but whenever you can promote from within and develop your own, I think it's a huge win for the district, and we just couldn't afford to lose Karen's talents. And she's going to be, we know she's going to be a rock star over at Glendale. We're very excited to keep her not only in Sweet Home, but as a member of the cabinet as well. She offers so much, to the other administrators on our cabinet from a professional development and a mentoring standpoint. So we're just really excited to announce this promotion, and we think Glendale's on the right path for years and years to come. So congratulations, Karen, and welcome. Clearly, you have no support whatsoever. So they are up, obviously Karen and Fanun are up for your vote tonight. And once that vote is taken, and we hope it goes the way we expect it to go, we'd like to get a picture with the candidates and make formal announcements out there. So, and then I will, I had a couple slides on buses. I know that was already addressed. So Don stole my thunder, but it came up in the building condition survey. And I just wanted to make one other announcement that as we are starting to, while we don't know what the future of COVID holds, I think we all are in agreement that we are transitioning out of it. And so we are going to put together committees to talk about what the 2022-23 school year is going to look like from a health safety standpoint in relation to COVID. So right now we still are practicing distancing and other guidelines in our buildings as much as possible, but clearly the transition is being made to learning to live with COVID and moving forward from it. So we'll have more updates as the month and summer unfolds. So, and I will end it there tonight.
Sounds good. Thank you. So next, that brings us to upcoming events. Let's see, we've got the art show tomorrow, district budget vote, and a bunch of PTA meetings, and it's concert season. So trying to attend those. And next, this takes us to new business. I have a consent agenda. We're going to pull D for a separate vote. So let's do consent agenda for A, B, C, E, F, G, H, and I. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any questions, comments? Let's start with special education. 187 pages this time. Did you get through it, Scott?
No.
I got
Sorry.
through it. I got
Good for
through
you.
it. Nothing out of the ordinary. Again, a lot of yearly reviews. Still getting new students in. Next is B, financial reports. Any questions, comments? C are our different bids: health and medical, athletic, roof maintenance, and football helmet and shoulder pad reconditioning. Any questions? We're going to save D. How about E, revised policy, second reading of 1410. Any questions on the second readings? F is our Erie One BOCES budget. G is our disposal of obsolete property. And what is it again? From the kitchen?
The basement.
Second.
Basement.
Bunch of items like
Ah, the
cleaners.
floor
Yeah.
Cleaners and
The floor
scrubbers.
suckers, yes.
Can't
the floor
forget.
suckers.
Yep.
Okay,
That's
H
not
is
a
our
vacuum.
agreement with the town of Amherst. Any questions? And I is our annual district vote, our inspectors of election. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that brings us to D, which is our school district calendar. Can I have a motion to accept D?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? That school calendar includes the district attendance calendar, the payroll, and the holiday calendar. Seeing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstain?
Aye.
Did you get that, Sherry? All right, next that takes us to informational items. And we don't have to worry about you getting out at 9 o'clock anymore. do you? Yay, go ahead, Roman.
Mostly, student government has yet to meet since the Panther Pride Week, which was a great success. We've had a lot of positive feedback from that, from both teachers and students. It was really fun for everybody involved with the unified game, the flag football game, as well as the dance. It all turned out really well for everyone involved. We are planning on meeting Wednesday of next week to discuss what we have started this year in unfinished business. Unfinished business that we had before we started planning the Panther Pride Week. And it seems like that we're looking ready to figure out what we can finish as well as wrap up for the year in student government.
Is this like a passing of the torch to the next group? When does that happen?
The next elections happen next year. We normally don't hold the elections.
Right, but
At
do
the
you
end of the year.
update who's ever, like, how will they know?
Well, a lot of members
Returning?
return. A lot of them run again and are elected again, as well as something I'd like to do is also come up with some sort of list of items that we didn't necessarily get to finish this year and maybe pass it on to the next generation of student government. That's something that I might look into completing and doing for our organization. But other than that, normally through the prior years, it's because we've had kids run again and they've passed on what they wanted to do.
Great, thank you. Peter?
Okay, I attended Friday night, the community night, and the flag football game. It was a good time. I'm disappointed that Don wasn't cooking hot dogs, but it
So
was
were the
good to
masses
see-
of people, Peter.
It was good to see a lot of the students here, and my son went to the dance on Saturday, so there and back driving. It was well attended. So Glendale upcoming events, we have a fun run coming up. PTA, I believe, has their vote next week for next year's officers. So just kind of a busy time getting ready for the end of the year and looking towards next year.
Great, thank you. Scott?
I wasn't able to make it to the high school PTSA meeting, but I know they're working on getting their scholarships reviewed right now to determine who's going to get them. I'm doing some of that. I managed last Thursday to make it to the Unified Basketball Game pep rally, the auditorium. It was outstanding. I'm sure just about all of you were in the auditorium at some point, getting your ears blown out with all the kids screaming. It was awesome. It was a great game. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but it was still a great game. Just the excitement and to me, unified basketball is the ultimate in sportsmanship, and I love watching it. I really do. I also made it to the community night on Friday and watched our flag football, and our ladies are awesome. They won again by big numbers. I love to see it. Earlier in the day on Friday, I went to a cool school client conference put on by Hodgson Russ, who is one of our attorneys groups that we work with. They actually handle our contracts that they were talking about here, that Sean was talking about, some of our bonds and stuff like that, Jeff Stone and a few others. I just got I think it was just yesterday, I didn't get a chance to send it out, a slide deck of every one of the presentations because they had 3 separate tracks going. So I'll forward it to you guys on the board.
Thank you.
And at least the ones I went to, I can answer some questions on, but it runs about 300 pages. They had a lot of good information there. And with an invitation from over at Ready Academy. Kaylee and I visited over there today, and it was a great visit. It really was. We started in the morning, meeting with the staff before the kids got there, just to talk about it, get an overview of the big picture program and the other things going on in the school. They were also telling us a little bit about the groups they're working with. There's Kenton is also doing big picture, and Lafayette is the name of the school. It's in Syracuse, and I think they said it was next week. A couple of them are going over there.
Yes.
Thank you.
The 17th, yep.
Okay, yeah, to talk with them a little bit more, but they've been working with the staff at Lafayette, who's been doing this for quite a few years, as mentors for the program to help them roll along even more. We talked about some of the stuff involved with the internships that their kids are doing over there, which I thought was great, and the number of, or in some cases shadow days, but some of them have been doing long internships already. And I know Nick Newman in particular was chasing down a lot of the stuff for them. But we made the suggestion that maybe once they find out the type of programs that the kids are interested in, if they can get it back to our administration and our board, all of us come from different backgrounds, and we might have more contacts so we can help chase down even more of those internships for at least get them pointing down the right road to get that information, because I know he's put a lot of work into it, but it helps the more places that you might have contacts. We talked about that a little bit. Sorry, I got a lot of stuff that I was scribbling on as I went. We talked a little bit about the type of things that, they were hoping to get for the future as we go along. They were very appreciative of the van that was recently got so that they can get the kids around some more. And we talked with one young lady who it was restorative justice involved for her as opposed to a suspension in the school. And and she was very open. The first thing she did was to ask Shep, or Papa, as she called him, if she was allowed to swear, because I wanted to make her point more, otherwise, or rather being exceptionally respectful. And we just said, you say what you want, because we want to hear what you have to say. And she was very open with us and explained the process and how it worked very well for her, even though, quoting her, at the beginning, she thought it was BS. It was the exact word she used. But then by the time she got to the end of it, how good it was for her. And to me, I mean, that's, putting kids home for a few more days or 5 days, and as opposed to learning something in school, the learning's got to be a much better alternative. I get it, it's tough to get to, and they were working on that. Just that particular example I thought was great. And I think I covered most of what I wrote down, but I'm sure Kaylee has more.
Yeah, I do.
That covers all my stuff.
Okay, thank you. Kaylee?
Okay, so I'll back up a little bit. I just wanted to say congratulations to everyone who was involved in the Panther Pride Week. Everyone who has mentioned it has just been beaming about how excited the kids were, how excited the teachers were. Me and my mom were walking around and we were excited. My mom had, was kind of bummed it was the end of the week, and she was like, I'm tired, I have to finish my plans for next week and all this stuff. And we went and we couldn't leave. Like we were like, we'll just talk to a couple more people. We'll just get a little bit more. And I brought my dog, and Peter loved it too. And Roman, when you were talking about it, you were just beaming with pride, and very well deserved. You and all of the student government, I've been saying it all year. I just am blown away by the work that you are doing with your support, of course, but just really congratulations. Are you a senior? You're a senior, right?
I'm a senior, yes.
Man, I am so excited for you to go out in the world, but wish you could stay here one more year. It's been so nice working with you. I also attended the PTSA meeting the day before that. It was a pretty quick meeting. They're wrapping up the year. Again, they had a fabulous year. Very, very successful year for them. They're planning some big things for next year already. Just kind of getting bigger and better. I also showed up for the open house at the community center on Saturday. There was no open house because it's next weekend, but that's the kind of state of mind.
It's coming Saturday.
Yes, it's this Saturday.
And
I
Monday.
showed up last Saturday. Nobody was there. I was like, wow, this was real dud. But that's just where I'm at in my semester. And then finally, Ready Academy this morning. Wow. I was so blown away. The kids there are so proud of that space. They're so proud of what they're learning and what they're doing, and really are excited to talk to us and explain to us what they're doing. Some of them weren't as excited to talk to us, but were very interested in what we were talking about. You could kind of tell they had their ears perked up. But just, I can't say enough. The staff are clearly all in.
They are passionate.
all in. I mean, we had people who were just moved to tears about just talking about what they're doing. It was really beautiful. It was beautiful to see. And I'm so happy that we have something like that. So yeah, I don't even have words to say. It was a great experience. You guys are doing really wonderful work. You should be very, very proud. Yeah, I think that's what I've done this week. I'm sorry. It has been a long week for me. I'm sure for a lot of us, but
Thank you.
it's Tuesday. Man,
Oh,
you're right. It's
Kaylee.
Tuesday.
thank you, Kaylee. Josh?
Yeah.
Sure. I attended the Panther, the Community Days last Friday as well. It was just a phenomenal program. I was also able to attend the 8th grade or 7th and 8th grade jazz band and the high school jazz band concert. And Mr. Petrie's just doing a phenomenal job of, there's the numbers in the high school jazz ensemble has dropped a little bit through COVID. And Mr. Petrie at the middle school has just done a phenomenal job to try and infuse that program and grow it. And I think there was a middle school activity night that my son went to that had a lot of good things to say about. And then I think I've spent every night at the rink with the 7th and 8th grade hockey team. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
Yep, I also attended community night and it was a great event. I was there early. And it's just nice to see everybody and it was, really enjoyed it and you guys did a great job. And then the second thing is Willow Ridge. For many of you who don't know me, I have 4 young children. 3 are at Willow Ridge and 1 will be there in a few years. But I attended the Willow Ridge PTO meeting. And the big thing there is science and book fair night. And that's happening May 20th on Friday. So looking forward to that event.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
So last week in Panther Pride Week, I attended the high school orchestra concert, which was well done. And our orchestras are getting so little. There's so few students. So I hope that they're able to revive that
Boost it up.
soon. I also attended the Friday night festivities. I did have one student pull me aside and ask me why we don't have cheerleaders for our flag football team. And I couldn't answer the question. I said,
Back to you on
I
that
will,
one.
I will bring it up. I don't know.
We thought the
Um,
seniors that did the powder puff game would have.
They wanted to, they were told they were not allowed.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
That is the information I'm receiving from the children, so that is what I know. I also attended Saturday morning games. If you really wanted a hot dog, they were selling them Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. So you could have come out.
They weren't Don's. hot
They were
dogs.
not Don's hot dogs, but they were our wrestling team's hot dogs. The only other thing, my daughter also went to the game or the dance. Phenomenal time. Everything was great. You guys did a wonderful job. And anybody I talked to that said, "What'd you do this weekend?" I'm like, "Oh, we had, spring homecoming." And they were like, "What's spring homecoming?" I'm like, "This new thing that we're doing here at Sweet Home. It's pretty awesome. You got to come check it out." So it was a lot of fun to be even talking about it. High school PTSA meeting was supposed to be last night. They moved it to next week. And then, the vote. So
Middle school?
Middle school.
middle school, not high school. Sorry.
I'm sure I was at that meeting. It's been a weird week,
Middle.
but I was there.
Yes, middle school. Sorry.
Middle school.
Middle school. And then the vote next week. And that's it. That's all for me.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I did not say something about our phenomenal nurses, because this is Nurses Week. So all our nurses in our schools, thank you for all you've done to get through this pandemic for us. We could not have done it without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I attended the Heritage PTA. They are working on the Color Dash, which is June 3rd. If anybody knows a DJ, they are desperate to have a DJ. So I'm looking out at faces. If any of you can spin records, give them a
It's
call.
not really good anymore.
Okay, well, okay. Let's see, they're in good state financially, and the spring homecoming, I was asked a question, are we gonna do this every year?
I do not know.
I know, but it was certainly appreciated, and I think it would be great to become a tradition because it was really thoroughly enjoyed by the community. I got a quick note about Zoom meetings starting July 1st. They are coming back down to 40 minutes that you have. Is that going to affect us? Is that something that, because it mentioned that they've given liberty through the pandemic, but they
Yeah.
are taking that away.
Okay, I haven't seen that note, but I will look into that.
That was one of the things they mentioned at the Hodgson
Okay.
Rusting that I was at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down from that 40, you can't
right.
spend over 40 minutes. So, and I
On
know
Zoom.
most of our Zoom meetings are
Okay. I'll take a
Um,
look.
The free accounts.
the free accounts, correct? The free, those are the ones
Okay.
we like.
There's a bunch of state regulations that changed too at the same time. That was what they were talking about.
All right. Anybody have
Actually, I
any-
got one
Go
more
ahead,
that I
go
thought
ahead.
about, and I can't believe I missed it. I think I'd like to say, and from our board, it's congratulations to Mallory Pissarro over at Maplemere, as she was named to the Western New York Teachers Hall of Fame.
Yay.
I think is awesome.
All right. This next takes us to our second open session. Before I read this, do I have any takers? Okay, I'll read this then. Let me go through it. As per Board Policy 1512, we hold 2 open sessions at each meeting. The second session may be used to address the board on topics appropriate for open session. The board welcomes attendance and participation by district residents, people having business within the boundaries of the school district, and people who do business with the Board of Education. Have to be at least 16 years of age, limited to 3 minutes. Please preface your comments with name, address, group affiliation. Non-district residents must include the name of their business or how they do business with the Board of Education. Take it away. And she's going to turn the thing so you see the clockwise.
I think I meet all those criteria. My name is Jenna DiPasquale, and I'm a teacher at the high school, teach science. I just wanted to share a few things with you. I've been here 27 years. I don't think I've ever come before this board with any type of information or, just for presenting with the high school. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit in reference to our spaces that Mr. Perry had talked about earlier. I just want to tell you a little bit about how we found out. And I think that is the premise of a little bit of an issue with us. So and maybe but last Thursday, we were in the office after school, many of us in our professional learning communities planning for the next day. Some people we did not know entered our office. They were not tagged. So we said, can we help you? And we were told that they were there taking an inventory of our belongings. So we asked what was happening, and they said, this room is going to be gone and that you have to move. So we were, move? What do you mean? So we were a little bit shocked that this is how we were told on May 9th of this year, when the year is coming to an end. So I just wanted to share that I did send an email immediately to Mr. Perry, telling him that, please let us know what's going on. We're very upset. This is something that, we're in here working, and we, throwing away our materials, I think, is the words that came out of the person's mouth. There were about 9 to 10 of us in the office. So that, I guess, is where a little bit of where my upset, being upset about this issue. It seems like this was a management style decision instead of a leadership style decision. We want to be part of the process. 27 years ago, when I started here, there was one room for teachers. It was the teacher center. We had a cafeteria. It was very disconnected. There was not a lot of collaboration at all. We have moved mountains with collaboration among our own departments and between different departments. We believe that the committee needs to include every department because we're all being impacted, because this is the majority of the space we use for our professional learning committees. I feel very disconnected. This is the most I've ever felt disconnected to a decision that's happened in the building in which I work. We're the people. We are the people that are going to build and implement any pathway, any CTE, which is career and technical program. So we need to be part of the process from the beginning. And I don't feel like we feel that we were part of the process at the beginning, because construction workers knew about the process before we did. And then May 9th, we're all prepping for exams. I can't lie. On Monday, I had a student who was having very close to a nervous breakdown about a regents exams, and she had to go to the nurse. And so we're dealing with, not only are kids dealing with stress, we're dealing with stress. It's May 9th, and we have to be at our offices by June 24th. I'd just like to know when that's going to occur and how we're going to do that, because that's a lot of time, because our big issue is kids. And so we're here for the kids and the needs of the kids. So I think we feel a little bit blindsided by the decision. We want to be part of the one community, and this is the only time in 27 years I've not felt part of the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Feel free. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to personnel. Could I have a consent agenda for 1, teaching and administrative, and 2, service?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, concerns? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Yay. Could I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for contract negotiation talk and an employee matter?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And we will not be